Hooked on these twists and turns? Hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more captivating tales from Stories Lab. Chapter 1: Cracks in the Picture-Perfect Life. Our house was more than bricks and mortar. It was a symbol of the life Lisa and I had built. Over 7 years of marriage. A cozy, two-story home tucked into the corner of a quiet cul-de-sac. It felt like the perfect place for a couple who had always been the envy of our friends. The walls were lined with photos that told our story. Our wedding day in the vineyard, the time we hiked to the Grand Canyon, and birthdays filled with laughter and cake. The smell of lavender from Lisa's favorite candles lingered in the air. But even in the warmth of our sanctuary, something felt off. Lisa had always been attentive, her laughter brightening even the darkest days. But over the past few months, her laughter came less often. Her late nights at the office had become routine, her phone always buzzing with work emergencies. She seemed distracted, her eyes distant even when we shared the same space. It started with small things, the way she avoided my gaze during dinner, her sudden need for privacy with her phone. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I reached for her hand. She flinched slightly before forcing a smile. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Of course," she said, too quickly. "Just work stress." I wanted to believe her, but doubt was a shadow creeping into the corners of my mind. I convinced myself I was overthinking it. After all, every marriage goes through phases, right? But the uneasiness lingered, and deep down, I knew this wasn't just a phase. Chapter 2: The Call That Changed Everything. It was a rainy Thursday evening when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen read Eric, my best friend since college. His voice was tight, almost hesitant. "Hey man. Are you alone?" he asked. "Yeah, what's up?" There was a pause, the kind that made my stomach knot. "It's about Lisa," he said, finally. I straightened in my chair, the casual comfort of the evening evaporating. "What about her?" "I saw her," he said, his tone cautious. "At the Evergreen Hotel. She was with someone." My heart pounded, my grip on the phone tightening. "What do you mean with someone?" "Some guy," Eric said. "They looked close." "I'm sorry, but you needed to know." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The room felt too quiet, my own breathing too loud. "Are you sure?" I managed to ask. "I wouldn't say this if I wasn't," Eric replied. "I hate to be the one to tell you, but I think you should go see for yourself." The world seemed to tilt. I hung up, my mind racing as I grabbed my car keys. The drive to the hotel was a blur of headlights and rain-slick streets. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. When I arrived, my heart felt like it might burst from my chest. I parked outside and scanned the windows, unsure what I was looking for until I saw them. Through the fourth-floor window, Lisa sat across from a man I didn't recognize. They were laughing, her hand resting casually on his arm. She looked carefree, almost happy. In that moment, something inside me cracked. Chapter 3: Silent Fury. I didn't storm in. I didn't make a scene. I simply sat in my car staring up at the window, my emotions swirling between disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. Confronting her then would have been too easy, too impulsive. No, I needed to think. To plan. The rain tapped against the windshield as I replayed the last few months in my head. The late-night meetings, the vague excuses, the emotional distance, it all made sense now. She wasn't just distracted, she was living a double life. When I finally drove home, the house felt colder than it ever had. I sat in the dark, staring at the empty space on the couch where Lisa usually curled up with a book. The front door creaked open hours later, and she stepped inside, shaking off her umbrella. "You're up late," she said, startled to see me awake. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She hesitated, then smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Long day," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "Busy night?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. She blinked, caught off guard. Yeah. Just work stuff, you know how it is. I nodded, my jaw tight. Of course. As she disappeared into the bedroom, I stared after her, the betrayal burning like acid in my chest. She had no idea what I knew or what I was planning. Chapter 4: Discovery and Despair. The days that followed were a blur of anger and determination. I knew I couldn't confront Lisa without proof, so I became a man on a mission. Eric was my confidant, helping me piece together the puzzle. He shared more details of what he'd seen, even snapping a photo of Lisa and the man. As they left the hotel together. Are you sure you want to do this? Eric asked one night as we sifted through bank statements and phone records. I need to know the truth, I said, my voice hard. And the truth wasn't hard to find. Her phone logs were filled with calls to an unknown number, her credit card statements showing charges for expensive dinners at places I'd never been. One day, when she left her laptop open, I saw an email chain with a man named Mark. It was intimate, filled with inside jokes and plans for their next rendezvous. My hand shook as I closed the laptop. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. One evening, I followed her. She claimed she was meeting a client, but I watched from a distance as she entered the same hotel. My stomach churned as Mark joined her. Their easy familiarity is stark contrast to the coldness she'd shown at home. That night, I stared at the ceiling sleepless. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was a stranger. But I wasn't just hurt, I was angry. And anger was a powerful motivator. Chapter 5: The Confrontation. The next morning, I awoke with a singular purpose: to confront Lisa. My mind had replayed the events of the previous nights on an endless loop, and I was done pretending. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone as though she hadn't been at a hotel with another man just hours ago. The sight of her calm demeanor made my blood boil. I placed my phone on the table in front of her, the screen displaying the photo Eric had taken. Explain this, I said, my voice cold. Lisa's hand froze mid-air, her face draining of color. For a moment, she stared at the image, her expression caught between shock and guilt. I can explain, she stammered. Then explain, I snapped. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. It's not what it looks like, she said weakly. Not what it looks like. I repeated, my voice rising. You're at a hotel, laughing with a man you've been lying to me about. What exactly does it look like to you, Lisa? Her silence was deafening. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders slumping. His name is Mark, she admitted. We've been seeing each other. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, even though I already knew. Hearing her admit it was worse than I'd imagined. How long? I demanded. 6 months, she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. 6 months. Half a year of lies, sneaking around, and betrayal. I felt my hands tremble as I clenched my fists. Why, Lisa? Was I not enough for you? It's not about you. She said, her voice barely audible. I felt something was missing. I didn't mean for it to happen. Something was missing. I laughed bitterly. And instead of talking to me, you went and found it with someone else. Do you have any idea what you've done? She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said, my voice sharp. You've destroyed everything we had. I walked out of the room, leaving her sitting there with her tears. But the storm inside me was far from over. Chapter 6: The Plan. That night, I sat in my office, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal. The photos, the emails, the receipts had all painted a clear picture of her deceit. I couldn't let her walk away from this unscathed. She needed to understand the depth of her betrayal, to feel the pain she had inflicted on me. But I wasn't going to confront Mark or Lisa in a fit of rage. No, this required precision. Over the next few days, I began to devise my plan. I started by gathering every piece of evidence I could find. I dug through her emails, social media accounts, and even her private journals. I uncovered details of their affair that made my stomach turn. Inside jokes, shared dreams, and plans for a future that didn't include me. My anger fueled my focus. I contacted a lawyer, ensuring I had the legal upper hand. Lisa thought she was in control, but she had no idea the storm I was preparing to unleash. Eric, ever loyal, offered his help. "What's the plan?" he asked one evening over drinks. "I'm going to make sure she regrets this," I said simply. Step by step, I outlined my revenge. It wasn't just about ruining her relationship with Mark. It was about taking back the power she had stolen from me. Chapter 7. Revenge in motion. The first move was financial. I froze our joint accounts, leaving Lisa unable to access the money she had taken for granted. When she confronted me about it, I feigned ignorance, watching her squirm as she tried to figure out how to explain her predicament. Next, I exposed her lies. I sent an anonymous email to Mark's wife. Yes, he was married to. I attached the evidence of their affair, knowing it would shatter his perfect little world. The fallout was immediate. Lisa came home one evening, her face pale. "Mark's wife knows," she said, her voice trembling. "Good," I said, meeting her gaze with cold indifference. You did this?" she asked, her voice rising. "Did you think I just let you destroy my life without consequences?" I replied. Her face crumpled, but I felt no sympathy. The final move came during a dinner party we had planned with friends. Lisa had insisted we keep up appearances, and I had agreed, knowing it was the perfect stage for my grand finale. As the evening unfolded, I waited for the right moment. Then, as the room buzzed with laughter, I stood raising my glass. "I'd like to make a toast," I said, my voice steady. Lisa smiled nervously, sensing something was off. "To love, loyalty, and honesty." I began 3 things I thought defined my marriage. Until I discovered my wife's affair. The room fell silent. Lisa's face turned crimson as everyone stared at her in shock. "Lisa, would you care to explain?" I asked, turning to her. She stammered, her composure crumbling under the weight of the revelation. I left her standing there, humiliated and exposed. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. In the weeks that followed, Lisa moved out her life in shambles. Mark's wife had filed for divorce, and Lisa's reputation among our friends was ruined. I filed for divorce, ensuring she received nothing more than what she deserved, which wasn't much. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. The weight of her betrayal no longer sat on my chest like a boulder. But revenge, I realized, wasn't as sweet as I'd imagined. It brought closure, yes, but it didn't erase the scars. One evening, as I sat alone in the house that once felt like a home on the journey, Lisa's betrayal had broken me, but it had also forced me to rebuild myself. I wasn't the same man I had been before, but maybe that was a good thing. Some betrayals don't destroy us, they transform us. And though the pain lingered, so did the lesson. As I stared out the window at the setting sun, I made a promise to myself to never let anyone take my trust for granted again. The story ended not with a sense of triumph, but with the quiet strength of survival. And sometimes, that's enough.